This is the second recipe I made with the focaccia dough. And of course, I just had to make a focaccia pizza, so please stick around if you would like to see how I made this. I started by taking my dough out the fridge. This had been in the fridge for about 44 hours at this point. If you would like to see how I made this dough, there is another recipe on my page for that. I got a 9" by 9" baking tin, and I just oiled this with some olive oil before putting in some parchment paper, putting a little bit more oil onto the parchment paper and spreading that around. I placed the dough into the baking tin before shaping it in a burrito type shape, folding it into itself before turning this around and then placing this smooth side up. I then covered this and let this proof for 4 hours. As my kitchen is quite cold, I actually let it proof in the oven with the light turned on. After 4 hours, here is how it's looking, and I'm just topping this with some more olive oil before dimpling that in. If the dough hasn't expanded to the size of your tray, then you can just oil your hands and pull it until it reaches the edges. Then I'm just going in with some homemade pizza sauce, which I will post the recipe for this. Then I'm just spooning this onto the dough before dimpling it. I didn't use all of the pizza sauce. I kept some aside to put on after I take it out the oven. And I cooked this on 200 degrees fan for 12 minutes. While that was in the oven, I started preparing my toppings, which I was going to put on the pizza after I take it out the oven. So I'm just chopping up some red pepper, some red onion, and I just prepared some mild cheddar and some mozzarella. After 12 minutes, I took the pizza out of the oven and I just went in with some more sauce before putting the toppings on the pizza. If you didn't want to take this out of the oven midway through cooking, you could just add everything onto the dough immediately and then just leave it in the oven to cook completely. But as I was topping it with red onion and red pepper, and these tend to cook quicker, I just took it out of the oven halfway through just to make sure that the toppings didn't burn. But if you were just going in with pepperoni and cheese, then I think you'd be fine. So I just popped that back in the oven and I cooked this for a further 12 minutes. I let this rest in the baking tin for 10 minutes before letting it rest on a wire rack for a further 10 minutes. You want to let this rest as you would do any bread, just so the consistency of the dough can set, and I find it helps let the oil settle. Then I just cut into it and I serve this with a rocket salad on the side.